Oh no, just to letting you guys know.
Hey, we're live video.
Hey.
Don't say your social security number. We're not on.
Don't hold up a sign with your social security.
It's 222-2222-222.
That's somebody's out there. They're like, oh, they're going to keep trying.
Oh, thanks. My social security number is same as the guy who does the accident attorney on the Highway 101 or 5 that has a big billboard. Dos, 22.
Oh, Tom, I saw
Yes,
your
sir.
review of Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Was it? It was. I couldn't tell from your tweet if it was just sort of like an under enthused or unimpressed.
Well,
It
my
was good.
scale is.
I thought you said you liked it.
I said Ready Player One was great.
Yeah, but I couldn't
And
tell. But there was
great
no
is the
like.
second one up on the good side of my scale.
Okay, so it was worth seeing.
Yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe you'll hate it, but I liked it. I had fun.
No,
Yeah,
everybody
I
who's
was-
seen it seems to have liked it quite a bit.
I want to see Isle of Dogs.
I was more disappointed by Isle of Dogs than Ready Player One, but I had high expectations for that and low for Ready Player One, so that's probably part of it.
Interesting. I want to see both of those.
All right, you guys ready?
Oh,
Yes.
Maretta.
Here we go. Happy Friday.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by people like me, not outside organizations. To learn more, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, April 6th, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from my art cave in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, I'm Len Peralta.
Da-na-na-na-na-na, Art Cave.
Hey,
It's good to have you back, Len.
it's
We
good
missed
to
you
be
last
back.
week.
We missed you. We did.
We made sure we had the most illustratable topics last week when you were gone.
It's good to be back, and I'm sorry I missed it, but I'm ready to hit the road with some great stuff this week.
I'm excited to talk today to our guest, Shelly Brisbin, author of iOS Access for All, podcaster, and web editor at the Texas Standard, one of my favorites when I used to live in Austin. Shelly, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here. It's great to see my old friend Len over there from back when we were podcasters a long time ago.
OG podcast.
Oh, exactly. We're absolutely OG podcasters.
That's fantastic. We're going to talk to Shelly about some of the latest trends in accessibility devices. Thanks to our producer, Roger Chang, for putting this all together today.
Hello, welcome.
He's busy. Don't bother him.
He's producing right this minute.
That's right. That's right. What am I doing? Let's start with a few tech things we should know.
Spotify announced a press event to be held April 24th in New York City. The invite contains no clues about what the announcement might be about, although some Reddit users claim to have received offers for an in-car Spotify hardware device.
Roskomnadzor, Russia's communications regulatory agency, filed a lawsuit Friday against Telegram after the company declined to give Russia's FSB security agency access to its users' encrypted messages. Roskomnadzor is asking the court to restrict access in the territory of Russia by Telegram, so basically kicking them out of the country.
Walmart will add 500 more pickup towers to U.S. stores this year. The company started the towers last year. It's basically Walmart's answer to Amazon's locker system, where you place an order online and then you pick up from a locker at a nearby store. The new towers will feature pickup lockers that are big enough to let customers pick up larger orders like TVs.
Now, unlike the past 17 days, Facebook's in the news today.
What?
I'm kidding.
What the heck are they doing?
In fact, we could have done the entire show just about Facebook stories if we decided to, but we're going to collapse them into one segment here. Here are the allegations Facebook is facing Friday. Brazil has fined Facebook $33 million for failing to hand over data from WhatsApp. And as you recall, WhatsApp encrypts everything end to end, so the data's really not there. That's been an ongoing fight with Brazil. Facebook has halted discussions with hospitals about using data to improve patient health and health research because Facebook sharing and data in a sentence makes people go crazy. 6 organizations in Myanmar signed a letter that Facebook's response to hate speech there, which was used by Mark Zuckerberg as an example in his interview with Vox, was slow and largely powered by them, the people on the ground, the locals, not by Facebook's system, according to the letter. Privacy protection agencies in Canada and its province of British Columbia are combining their investigations into ad targeting company Aggregate IQ and their relationship with Facebook. Additional appearance on Capitol Hill is happening. If you recall, Zuckerberg will be appearing before the U.S. House of Representatives Committee April 11th. He'll also now appear before a U.S. Senate Joint Committee on April 10th, the day before. And Facebook announced that any entity buying an ad about issues will have to be verified. The ad will be labeled a political ad, and there will be a disclosure about who paid for it. Okay. But there is one story getting most of the buzz, and it's this one. 3 sources told TechCrunch that old messages they had received from Mark Zuckerberg had been removed from their Messenger accounts, something that you as a Messenger user can't do unless you start the conversation as a secret conversation. Facebook verified this, told TechCrunch that messages from executives have a limited retention time as a security measure that was put in place after the Sony Pictures hack back in 2014. Facebook now says, after a bit of outrage about that all users will soon get the ability to unsend messages, and they promise Mark Zuckerberg will not use that feature himself again until it's available for everyone. Okay, deep breath, Sarah. Where do we go? What should be our favorite outraged Facebook story of the day?
Oh man.
Pick your poison.
Okay, so well, this is not necessarily the one I'm most outraged about, but issues, in quotes, marked as political ads. Okay, if they are indeed political, that makes sense to me. But what constitutes an issue?
Well, they're saying anything that is sure, that's going to be true of any moderation. I haven't looked at what their definition was, but let's just assume that they have a definition that says any debatable issue, not a product. Anything that's being discussed in the common campaigns, whether you're targeting a particular candidate or not. Would that satisfy?
I guess so. On the subject of Zuckerberg sending messages to people that have since disappeared, I mean, he never sent a message to me, but Facebook Messenger already allows you to delete a message you've sent. They still get it though, because I've done this in the past where I'm like,
if it's a secret conversation, if you start just a regular conversation, I don't think you could you?
No, you can. But if it's already sent, especially if somebody has send messages to email enabled, the message might go away within Messenger, but that email doesn't go away. So I'm not exactly sure how.
Well, no, but that's what they said, is that Zuckerberg was able to pull the message out of their inbox. They didn't delete it. He did. And they had the email to prove it had been sent. That's what the whole controversy is about.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how it works.
That's only works if you do secret conversations turned on, which it sounds like you have turned on.
No, I don't have secret conversations turned on.
Shelly, what's your favorite of these Facebook stories?
I'm interested in the health one because clearly this was probably an initiative that they were pretty excited about. There's probably a whole team full of people that have been in a meeting for a while. So we're not going to talk about this for a while because, yeah. So I don't know whether it would have been a good thing or a bad thing, but it feels like Facebook is just, hiding under the table and waiting for things to blow over at this point. And this health thing is obviously something that would have created a lot of questions, which on some days they might like as a distraction, but on other days it's just like, I think we'll just be as friendly as we can be. We'll just rewrite our policies every week. That'll keep us busy for a while.
Yeah. Just don't do anything,
folks.
Do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, the deflection of it. It's like, yeah, exactly. What story means the most to you? What other stories, can we throw at you to possibly, I don't know.
Look, a bear.
Right, exactly. Myanmar. Moving on, Snapchat is releasing the iPhone 10 exclusive AR Snapchat lenses Friday. These 3 lenses are a Mardi Gras-like mask, Day of the Dead-like skull, so obviously, very timely, and a gold-plated eye cover. Snapchat will have access to some visual-facing mapping data within the iPhone 10 to make the lenses work, but Apple says the mathematical representation of your face will not be shared with Snapchat.
I found this interesting that the Verge story made sure to go into that because now everybody's crazy about what data is being shared. And so every feature out there has to be very explicit about what's happening and what isn't.
In a press release, they had to write the words, "a mathematical representation of your face."
Right. Don't worry. The distance between your nose and your upper lip will not be shared with Snapchat.
But we know it, and we can regurgitate that information at any time when you're not looking.
Well, yeah, you don't. I mean, people legitimately don't want the mathematical representation of their face shared because that could be used to unlock their phone theoretically,
exactly.
right?
Sure.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Samsung says it expects Q1 revenue to rise 18.7% to 60 trillion won. It's typical in Korea to file an earnings report forecast with their regulatory agencies. That's why we get these forecasts from Samsung and LG all the time. Earnings are driven by chip sales and strong mobile phone sales. Of course, Galaxy S9 selling well for Samsung. However, NAND prices, NAND flash memory, have been falling, and it is expected that the RAM supply may be outstripping demand finally, which could cause RAM prices to fall, which you system builders are probably thinking is good news, but it's bad news for Samsung because it's leading analysts to expect Samsung's earnings might slow or even fall in Q2. Samsung reports its actual Q1 earnings in April. Meanwhile, South Korean prosecutors searched Samsung's offices Friday, investigating allegations that the company undermined workers' efforts to strengthen unions. So Samsung had its chief thrown in jail, gone through a controversy. Now their offices are being investigated, and the money just keeps rolling in, I guess.
I wonder if maybe Mark Zuckerberg and the Samsung chief, who was in jail and I believe is out now.
Yes, he is out now, right?
I wonder if they're exchanging Facebook messages right about now, saying, "Dude, I've got problems. You've got problems. Let's be friends."
And we're still making so much money.
Exactly.
Isn't it great?
Right. Yeah. Earnings are up. Speaking of earnings, by the way, LG expects its Q1 operating profit to rise 20% year over year to its highest in 9 years. LG is the number 2 TV maker in the world behind Samsung. So TV sales as well as home appliances are likely to be the driver, although LG did not give details in its filing. Also, mobile phones are expected to post a loss for LG.
Yeah, I think people focus so much on LG's mobile phone woes that they forget that the company is one of the few successes out there at selling TVs these days, and their home appliances are killer. We don't cover white goods on this show, so we don't touch on that aspect of their business as much, but they do very well for LG. So again, things looking good for Korean tech companies right now, just raking in the dough.
Shelly, do you happen to have an LG phone?
I do not. I have one of
Washer.
those. What's that little company? Apple, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, but they don't make washers and dryers.
No, not yet.
Yet.
No, that is not, I'm looking for the Face ID washer and dryer that I can buy at some point.
Who would better make white goods than Apple?
I was actually at a party recently, and somebody had an LG fridge.
I've seen them. I don't have one of those, but I've seen them.
I don't either. Yeah,
I had an LG dishwasher, and now Brett Rounceville has that LG dishwasher in my apartment in Oakland, and it was fantastic. Whisper quiet was real. Like, it was actually a quiet dishwasher. Yeah. All right. Finally, Huawei's P20 and P20 Pro are now available through Vodafone UK online and in retail stores, starting to become available other parts of the world as well. And the reviews are out. The praise is universally great for the camera, especially its nighttime photos. Also, people very excited about the 4,000 milliamp battery, which apparently really can do 2-day battery life. And they say on a normal day, if you're going to plug it in at the end of the night anyway, you pretty much don't need to worry about it. So that's a crowd pleaser. The negatives include the notch and the way the notch is handled, and some of the other design choices, although that seems to vary by reviewer which part of the design they don't like. But overall, these are super positive reviews for a phone that will now, as we found out at CES, not be carried by any of the carriers in the United States. This is considered, the P20 is considered to be one of the top 3 phones in the world right now, right? There's the iPhone, there's the Galaxy S9, and there's the P20. And it is not impossible, but extremely difficult to obtain if you live in the US.
I love the idea of I often I am an iPhone user, as is no surprise to anyone. But the camera aspect of these phones, the P20 and the P20 Pro, they are. I mean, I want the phone with the best camera. That's sort of the thing that I've decided is my thing, because everything else more or less is the same. You get the same apps. You can call people, you can text people, whatever. But I love the idea of how good the camera is, and the fact that they've sort of thrown a third camera into the mix and raised the stakes, as it were.
I think it'll be interesting to see whether people, because they've been told no in the U.S., will try and get them, and because the reason it's not going to be available in the U.S. is because the government is looking askance at Huawei, and so if you do bring one of these into the U.S., what are the chances that some trouble will follow? Or I don't know. I'm just thinking on the fringes about how it might impact folks in the U.S. who just want it either because it's a camera that they love or because they can't have it and they've been told they can't have it.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to hurt your sales when it's difficult to obtain. But I would be curious if it gets some momentum anyway. OnePlus made some good inroads in the U.S. Without carrier support, so it's certainly possible. I do believe that what we're starting to see is the first evidence that what is going to happen, according to a lot of analysts, is China's going to have its own market. U.S. companies don't really exist there, with a few exceptions. The U.S. has its own market, and we seem to be wanting to keep Chinese companies out of it. And so places like India, Africa, Southeast Asia are going to be the battleground where U.S. and Chinese companies actually compete, where Europe and U.S. kind of stay in their own enclave and China stays in its own enclave. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines, available on the Amazon Echo and on the Google Home, the Anchor app, and at dailytechheadlines.com. So, Shelly, you recently attended the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference, and I'm very excited to hear some of the trends in accessible technology, and it sounds like one of the big ones is around wearables.
Oh yeah. So CSUN is named for the university in Southern California that sponsors it, but that's sort of its nickname. This is the biggest accessible tech conference every year, and so I guess you could call it the CES of accessible tech if you wanted to, because it's fun to say. So let's just call it that. And this year, yeah, wearables was a big thing because there are a couple different kinds of markets for wearables for people with blindness or low vision. So if you're blind, why would you, and by wearables, I mean glasses. We're not talking watches here. There are a couple of watches out, but this year it was all about headwear. And for a blind person, why would you wear a headwear? Well, it's because there are services and intelligence in that headwear that make it possible for a blind person to learn about their surroundings. So some of them just have a camera that can do OCR and can identify objects and even people. And some of them actually rely on services. There's a company called Ira that sells a service which connects a blind person to a live agent, so that blind person, and they have a camera on the head-mounted camera on their face, and they walk around, and the agent says, the street sign is over that direction, or this is what your shampoo bottle says. I'm simplifying it a great deal, but the idea is a blind person can travel independently, get information independently with the assistance of a live person, and they pay by the minute for this service. That's not a brand new service. It's been out for a little more than a year in sort of a beta program, but what they've rolled out this year is a custom-built glasses solution. It's called the Horizon glasses. Interestingly enough, they were actually using Google Glass as the hardware before. And so one of the reasons they built the new one is so that it would look a little less like Google Glass. But basically, it's controlled by a Samsung phone that exists to contact the agent and stream the video to the agent from the customer, and then the customer pays by the minute.
What is the charge per minute?
It's you pay for plans. 100 minutes is $89. The hardware is free as part of the service, and then there are increasing levels of coverage for more than that. So it sounds kind of expensive, $89 for 100 minutes. But if you're a blind person that sort of acts independently in most cases, but might need help in a specific situation, you can judiciously.
Sounds sort of invaluable, really.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, and it's really exciting to a lot of people who. There are a lot of blind people who love technology, but are very skeptical of things like this. That sort of lean toward the words like amazing tend to be used, and blind people hate that. But it really is, it's kind of an astonishing service. And what's impressive to me is that they've actually, fairly quickly been able to build a custom hardware solution that does what they need it to do and isn't, put together with a bunch of spare parts, which is kind of what they did with the first version. Is it
an LTE service? Is that how you're able to potentially be streaming all the time?
Yeah, originally it was a MiFi that came as part of the unit, and now basically you get a carrier plan with LTE as part of the service. And that's the amazing thing too, is that you're paying just for the minutes that you use, but you're paying IRA. So all the carrier charges, all the hardware stuff, everything else is wrapped up in that bundle. And I don't know what the economics of that are, but at least for the moment, that's what they're able to offer.
Now, one thing I think that probably caught some people's ears was saying that this is a service that you have a person at the other end looking at the images and describing them to you.
Right.
Mostly when we hear the amazing tech, it's all about AI and like, well, you don't even need a person. The AI will just be able to recognize what's around you and read it to you. Was there anything even close to that there?
Oh, Tom, such a good segue. So there's actually an app from Microsoft called Seeing AI that has been buzzed about since it was released last July. They're already on version 2.0. But what Seeing AI does, and it's available on the iPhone right now, is that it has 6 modes. I think it's 6. It might be more now. But by choosing the mode, you can tell it what you want it to do. It can read short text, so I could read a sign or I could read a label. You can use OCR to scan and read a lot more text. You can have it do color identification. You can actually have it. The fun thing and the party trick that everybody always does is you point it at a person and it attempts to identify the age, gender, and the facial characteristics of the person. So it might say,
that could never go horribly wrong.
No, it could never go horribly wrong. And so, as I say, it's a good party trick. And I did it in my newsroom. And fortunately, I was smart enough to point it at the younger people who were the most vanity in the group, and it identified them correctly as smiling interns. And then you can tag people also. So if it sees me, it calls me Shelly because it knows my name. So you could use it to identify folks. And Microsoft has released this for free, and it keeps the thing that's amazing to me is not even so much the app, but the fact that they quickly iterated and already put a 2.0 version out. And they of course won't comment, but my first thought to them was, you put this in a wearable. That's what you want, is to have that AI available in a wearable product. So I don't even have to interact with my phone. I can just, look at something and use a gesture, and all of a sudden I know what color my shirt is.
Yeah. What about Braille devices? You said there were some pretty interesting things happening there too.
So a couple of years ago, we call this the year of wearables. Braille kind of got a big bump a couple of years ago because there were some technologies that made it possible to create Braille displays. And a Braille display is basically a device that connects to a phone or computer that allows the blind person to interact with the text on their phone or computer in Braille. And the dots that form those displays have actually been quite expensive. And so Braille displays have been going for in the low, $4,000 or $5,000. And the technology that's become available in the past couple of years has allowed vendors to create Braille displays with dots that are considerably cheaper. And so what you have are very small displays. There's one out called the Orbit Reader now that's under $500, which is just amazing. And I just said amazing 3 times, and I said we didn't like that word. So
you just can't help it when you go to these conferences. They put it in your head. Yeah.
And then there's another one called the Canute that's a full page display. The issue with Braille displays is you're reading one line at a time. Typically, it's iterated in cells, so 20 cells, 40 cells. A full page display allows you not only to do like more long form reading, but also potentially interact with graphics. And so there's a relatively inexpensive full page display out. So a lot of Braille devices that were promised 2 years ago are finally starting to ship. So that's pretty exciting.
Now, I know you focus on sight impairment. Did you get a chance to see any like hearing, or I'm sorry, not hearing, but sight, or for people who are deaf? did you see any?
Hearing aids.
Yeah, I started saying it right. Yeah.
It's not really at the CSUN conference. What's going on with hearing aids is more in other places, probably even CES. I'm not sure because I didn't go, but that tends to be more out in the mainstream world. It is also a little closer to the phone carriers. So Apple, or phone makers. So Apple has continued to improve the interaction between hearing aids and the iPhone and added more hearing aids to the device, to the compatibility list. And so that technology is not something I'm super familiar with, but I know that it's getting better. And again, I think it's getting a little less expensive, because the thing people say about hearing aids is they're just terribly expensive. And so, getting a new one just because Apple has provided some new whiz-bang technology isn't necessarily accessible to everyone. But it is improving with a lot of help from the phone makers.
All right, so if we're checking in on how the big companies are doing, because it was a couple of years ago that they all started their keynotes with accessibility and how much they were doing for accessibility. Who's doing well in your opinion here?
Well, I think that nobody's backsliding. Let me put it that way. Everybody's making strides forward. I think the most interesting thing that's going on right now, and I think I might have said this, I say this a lot when in the past year or so, I've been telling people this, that Microsoft is really building up ahead of steam. Microsoft has had a screen reader on their Windows operating system called Narrator for a really long time, but Narrator was never very functional, and it wasn't good for anything else. You usually invoked a commercial screen reader, that you installed as a third-party product. But now Microsoft has really taken the initiative to make Narrator much better. It might not be the only screen reader you use on your computer, but it will allow you to install a Windows system all by yourself without assistance if you're blind or visually impaired. They've also done a lot with Xbox. So when you say, is gaming accessible? Well, it usually depends on what kind of console you have. And again, you're sort of reaching the edge of my knowledge as far as what accessibility on Xbox, how far they've come, but they've really made a lot of great strides. And I think if you ask blind gamers what console provides the most accessibility right out of the box, Xbox is absolutely in the lead. And so they've, and a number of fronts, Microsoft has really been doing a great job. Google and Apple continue to add features to their products. Google is doing a good job with Android of adding some more low vision features. They started with a pretty good screen reader talkback. It continues to be iterated, but now they're sort of filling in some of the blanks that were left with low vision features, which is something Apple was also doing in the past year. And then Amazon has done a pretty good job of bringing their voice view screen reader to more platforms. It started out on some Kindle devices and on the Fire tablets, and now they've actually made a pretty big push to make Amazon Fire Stick and other television devices that run on the Amazon platform accessible to voice view. So that's pretty cool as well.
Now, just because you're enthusiastic about what Microsoft is doing doesn't mean that you aren't aware of what Apple's doing. In fact, you wrote the book literally on iOS accessibility, right?
Yes, I did. It's a long book too. So yeah, I mean, Apple is, people give Apple grief because they feel like they're not making, it's kind of the same issue that people give Apple grief about generally in accessibility, that they're not, doing the whiz bang things that they used to do. They're just making what they already have better. And there are complaints, as there always are, about a particular feature not working as well. In iOS 11, Braille support really took a hit. It's not that they backed off on the feature, it's just that there were a lot of bugs. By the same token, however, as I said, they made some improvements in low vision support for, they didn't create a dark mode, but they came closer to it in making it a feature called Smart Invert Colors in iOS 11, which makes it possible for you to use dark mode, which would use a reverse video, which I do, so that the text is light and the screen is dark instead of the reverse. And the problem with that was that images always appeared as a negative. And with Smart Invert Colors, there's an attempt to make those so that you can actually scroll through your website in a dark mode configuration, but you can actually see images as they were meant to be seen. So that's what they've been up to lately.
Check out Shelly's book. There's an iOS 11 version of the iOS Access for All at iosaccessbook.com. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We have a Facebook group too, facebook.com/group/dailytechnewsshow. And we take the emails, right, Sarah?
Yes, we do. We actually got, if somebody's looking for a new book to read, Tobias has a suggestion. He says, I heard your brief discussion about AI in war and combat scenarios with Justin. That was yesterday. And it reminded me of the book, The Last Good Man by Linda Nagata. near-future military sci-fi book that's exploring warfare in the age of AI. Not for everybody, but I think this is where sci-fi is at its conceptual best, exploring the hard future trends and entertaining us at the same time. Recommend the book and everything else by Nagata, since this is a frequent topic in her books. Tom, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. I was not before today.
I have not read Linda Nagata, though. Thanks for the recommendation,
Absolutely.
Tobias.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's check in with Len Peralta, who has been illustrating this show for us. Len, what you got?
Yeah, at the top of the show, Tom, you said you could do an entire show about Facebook, and I'm sort of glad you didn't. But what I wanted to do was sort of talk about connectivity and just freedom in general, a little bit of a editorial comment on outweighing your freedom versus your connectivity, and that this is what this image is about. It's called "This Is for the Best," and what it is a a lightning person,
connected
who's a lightning lady who is unconnected from the plug, and in the background, a ton of people who are kind of grayed out, connected in the back, and it's just something to think about. It's like
forward. 1984's Apple commercial all over again.
And Len, I appreciate the description for those out there who are using screen readers and going, wait, Len's got a drawing. I wish I knew what was in that drawing, but you just told us.
Yes, I think everybody should go to the store and check it out at lenperaltastore.com. And by the way, just real quickly, if you want, if you have like an anniversary or a birthday coming up, hey, maybe commission me for something, because I do stuff.
Yeah,
and he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, I feel like this is your most artistic. It's probably the wrong word, but it's very interpretational. I really, really like this one.
Yes, thank you.
So go check it out, folks.
It's really good. It's great. Shelly, such a pleasure to have you on the show. I know we talked a little bit about the fact that you write really great books, but let everyone know where they can keep up with you online.
So you can find me on Twitter at Shelly, Shelly. Yes, I got in early.
You sure did. You sure did. And I bet you get a lot of ad replies not meant for you.
I got a lot of bad. I block a lot of people. Let me just put it this way. Also, there are an awful lot of people named Shelly who seem to be social media experts, and I get their. So anyway, come on over. And then I'm at Brisbin.net, which is allegedly where I collect all the things I do. And then iosaccessbook.com if you need a book about iOS accessibility.
Excellent. Thanks to everybody who supports this show. You can find out all the ways to support at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. We're always looking for folks to kick us $1 or so on Patreon, and we have lots of cool rewards to thank you for your membership there at patreon.com/DTNS. And of course, if you would like to show off DTNS in style, if you're like, hey, you know what, maybe I can't support on an ongoing basis, but I need clothing to cover me and warm me, and that can also spread the word about the show, check out our shirts and our hoodies and our onesies and even coffee mugs at dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
And if you really like your onesie or your mug or your shirt or your sweatshirt or anything, send us a photo. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll kind of do a romper room type thing at the end. We say, I see you, Shelly and Roger and Len. I don't know if we're going to do that or not. We are live Monday through Friday, though. I do know that at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back on Monday with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That was a great show.
Hey,
Shelly, that was so great.
Yeah, really good.
I was conscious of time or trying to hit the post, but
No, you did great.
You were incredible.
Thanks, it was fun.
We packed a lot in too. It was good.
We did.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about VR wearables. There was so much wearable stuff I could have thrown at you.
Well, we can have you back on to talk about that.
But those are really trippy. What I should do is get one. Because basically they've taken Samsung VR headsets and they've made them into wearables for low vision people.
Okay.
And I should get one and model it on the show and tell you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So that's a good reason for me to get to review one.
An image intensifier, it increases the contrast of.
Well, basically, so you put it on you're seeing what the phone camera sees in the headset, and you can magnify it. You can change color schemes, so you can theoretically. You can read text with it, or more likely you can walk around. It's not something you do on a constant basis, but it's great for trade show floors. You put that thing on your head and you can zoom in on a sign, you can zoom in on people, and they're adding apps. So presumably they'll be able to do things like the Orcam does, where you can tag people and say, hey, that's Joe over there. I think I'll walk over to Joe and say hello. I can't recognize Joe over there. Anyway, so some of them, the headset thing is actually like the newest thing, and they're pretty expensive, and they're pretty warm to wear on an ongoing basis. But I like them. They're interesting.
Yeah, there is something interesting. Not everything has to be amazing
to
be interesting,
no.
right?
It's great if it is, but
the trouble is that these things all these wearables cost crazy amounts of money. I mean, they really do. And so you almost feel like you have to pick and say, well, where am I going to put my $2,000 to $5,000? Am I going to put it in this headset, or am I going to put it in this pair of glasses that has a camera in it that does OCR and text identification? It doesn't have an agent on the other end, but it's just, it might have some AI, or it might just be, typical camera features. So, and then there's so many different kinds of vision loss. And I always ask when I go interview these people, well, how does somebody get this? Do they just come and buy it from you, or do they need a doctor's prescription? There's some people that are selling them in such a way that I kind of wonder whether people are getting the thing that's best for their particular eye condition, so, but they're fun to play with. And there's some of them that don't, the headset ones I like, they work for me, but there's some like the eSight and the New Eyes, which are these little cameras that are in glasses, and they're not really intended to provide any machine learning or anything. They're just cameras that access the part of your eye that is not working properly. And I can't use those at all, but that's just because I have a different kind of vision loss than the people those things are intended for.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I've become more aware of over the years that a lot of people don't realize is, it's not just blind or you can see. There's all manner of different
Shelly, what kind of vision loss do you have?
So mine is caused by a blockage in the optic nerve, and the thing I can tell you about it best is just how it manifests itself. So I'm really sensitive to light. If you notice, I tend to blink a lot. It's not even all that bright in here, but I'm just super sensitive to light. I'm very nearsighted. You don't want me driving any vehicles, so I don't do that. And then I'm colorblind as well, but it's not as a lot of eye conditions. A lot of times, in fact, when you talk to these vendors, they'll say, well, what eye condition do you have? Macular degeneration? Do you have RP? Do you have Stargardt's? Because once they know that, they can tell you a lot about, whether it's central vision loss or whether it's peripheral vision loss, which kind of device is going to work for you. But when I walk up and say it's a blockage of the optic nerve, that doesn't give them much information. Right. So that's why I have to go into that spiel about what my vision actually, how it works.
Yeah, right.
And they'll ask you your visual acuity, and mine varies from day to day. I mean, it literally does in different eyes. And so every time you go to the eye doctor, what's your acuity? And I'll give them a range, but they always have to check, and it might be different than what I said.
And has it always been the same? Has it gotten, better or worse as you've aged, or?
It's always the same. And that was one thing I was really interested in, is how it would affect my ability to read, like after I got to be 40, because, everybody's vision.
Sure. Yeah.
And I can't tell you, it's this % less than it was. I don't feel like it's deteriorated, but I know when I put on old pairs of glasses, it's different. So if that makes any sense, mostly it's about reading. But I don't have low vision bifocals or anything. So it's hard. I want to quantify it because I'm a geek, and it's
of course,
explain it, but I cannot. So.
Sure. Yeah. Well.
It's weird how your perceptions of those things just sort of run along with how they change, and you don't notice the change because they're slow enough.
Well, and the other thing too is that because I had reading glasses, and I would always read paper with them. I never read screens with them, and I've had computers forever. But I've noticed that since I've had smartphones and continue, basically since I've read a lot less on paper. What do you read on paper anymore? Not much. And since I don't use vision correction to read on screens, the time between when I wore the last pair of glasses and the most recent pair of glasses is longer. So I don't even have that continuity of, well, last week it was different. Yeah. Last month,
I think the title for the show, Shelly's Accessibility Tech Rundown.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Love it.
Just call it Shelly's podcast, and Len can.
Oh, it was really good. It was really informative.
Len's already got some art for that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he does. And I've got a banner which I should hang up in here.
Yeah,
Next time I know I'm going to be on the show when Len's on, I'll hang.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, no,
good-
that was
good call.
awesome. Good show.
Great, it was fun. Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's a topic that we get a lot of requests from people to talk about regularly, so it's important. And,
And I get really grumpy about the way it's talked about in the mainstream world.
Yeah.
Because, I guess the short version of what I get grumpy about is that there's really not much rigor. So if we talk about Microsoft or Apple or Google adding an accessibility feature, it's usually like, well, you get a point because you did that. But there's no actual discussion of, well, how well does that
qualitative.
feature perform? And somebody's response who covers tech in general might be, well, how do I know? I'm not blind. Well, then why don't you call somebody who is and get their opinion and either let them write your piece or be on your podcast, or, inform yourself or let them inform you.
yeah.
And so that's always you don't just get a point for trying, you get a point for how well it works. And I'm happy to say such and such a company is leading in accessibility, but right now their Braille support sucks. Just the way I would say that about any kind of feature. If they're going to market on that basis, then they should be held to account on that basis.
Well, yeah, I mean, that just makes sense, right? Like the Huawei reviews were not, Huawei has a great camera, and so they get points for making a phone. It was, Huawei has a great camera, but I think the processor is a little slow, or I think the glass design should have wireless charging, right? It's not an all or nothing situation. It shouldn't be for anything.
Yeah, and it also makes it hard to explain accessibility because you always end up doing accessibility 101 instead of saying, I'd like to jump to the point where I tell you that that Android does this thing better or Apple does that thing better, because I've actually used both of them. And there's enough people out here evaluating this stuff either for publications or in terms of their work, because there are a lot of people who do these valuations because they work in rehab agencies and they have to help clients choose the right tech.
Yeah,
So, there is a knowledge base out there that I don't think a lot of people in the mainstream pundit world or whatever have taken advantage of the way I'd like to see them.
No, because the clickbait is, these accessibility hacks will do this for you.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, anytime I see 10 secret features, I know there's going to be at least one accessibility.
At least,
Go to settings, general accessibility. Okay, I knew that was coming.
Oh my gosh.
My whole book, I could just retitle my book, 100,000 secret features in the iPhone or whatever. 800
You should do that. You should do an ebook version that has that title just to compare.
That'd be fun, and people would buy it too. That's would be ridiculous. Well, I've got my whole chapter 4 is low vision stuff, and because that's where I live, the way it's sort of much more written experientially and in a kind of a hacker way than the other chapters are, because so much of the way that I interact with the world of stuff that isn't designed for me is I just hack at it and I go, what if I do this? And so it was so much fun to write that chapter because I finally got to write all that stuff down.
The hacker ethos doesn't change, right?
No,
it's
not at all.
the same one. Well, cool. Yeah. I'm going to start pitching your book as iOS hacks to people who don't need accessibility.
I like it. That works. iOS accessibility hacks.
All right. Let's see.
Sam, quit it.
Yeah, so Sam hit, I don't know if you realized it, but Sam hit your mic pretty hard in the middle of the show. No, it was
Did
Lucy.
he?
Might have been
I didn't know
Lucy.
whose mic
No,
that
it was Sam.
but-
Was it Sam?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It
I
didn't
don't-
last long, so it
don't
wasn't
know
worth.
He usually does not even come in here. He's very on edge. I don't know. He knows grandma's coming to town or something. I don't know what's wrong with
If I'd
him.
known this was
He's
cat
walking around howling and pawing at me.
I would have let Rowan come in if I'd known it was cat friendly. He would have walked in front of the microphone, and the way the camera is angled, you just would have seen this orange ball of fluff go by. This tastes.
Oh yeah, you totally could have. That would have been fine.
Yeah, hey, cat friendly, animal friendly. It's an animal friendly
my
show.
desk and just knocks things over, or he sits there and he stares at the space where the thing is that he wants me to move. It just waits.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime.
That's
Well-
the way they do.
If we had a not dramatic earthquake yesterday, but an earthquake, and now I'm very on edge because I'm a paranoid person. So I'm like, why is my cat howling in the hallway right now? Like, does he know something that I don't? Because it's like,
Do the cats get weirded out? when earthquakes
Well,
happen?
I mean, I don't know, but the lore is that, animals have that sixth sense, so like they'll, act weird before something's going to happen. Where I'm like, is it a tsunami?
It's true that animals can hear frequencies that you can't, and there may be noises that are made at frequencies we can't hear that tip them off. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say. I just, I'm like, why are you being weird? You were fine. You slept all day until the show started, and then you like, oh, nutcase.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go watch the Indians.
Oh, well, do you mean the baseball team?
The baseball team.
Okay.
Just random Indians.
I thought maybe you were just making a Bollywood reference. So.
They're outside dancing in my yard.
That would be amazing.
It would be
Speaking
really
of
great.
Amazing.
Yes, incredibly. It's my.
You're like, oh yeah, it happens in our neighborhood all the time. It's great.
It's opening day, so here in.
Oh, it's the home opener.
Yeah.
Nice.
I thought opening day was like last week or something.
Yeah, the opening day was last week, but not all the teams played at home, so they get their home opener.
Oh, that counts as another one? God.
Well, for the home team, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
For the home team.
I mean, what do I know?
Big deal. So.
Well, because opening day, it's like, half the teams aren't going to be at home, so
right.
The home opener.
I just never thought about it that deeply. Is all I'm saying. We actually covered minor league opening day at the show because.
Oh, nice.
They in some.
Is this the Express?
Yeah, but what they've done is interesting. In order to market to Hispanic to a Hispanic market, I think it's this weekend. Basically, what they've done is change the names of teams to have some sort of Hispanic content. So the Express is the Chupacabras this weekend.
Oh, wow!
And they changed their uniforms and they do all sorts of like merch that's specific. And I think they changed the food at the ballpark. So it's this whole like, hey, we're marketing to Hispanic fans.
I mean, I'm not Hispanic, but I would have absolutely gone to a Chupacabras game.
100%.
Right?
I want to see their
I'm
mascot.
much more likely to go to the Chupacabras game.
Yeah.
Like what's the mascot look like?
See, this is what irritates me.
Some for Lendra.
Part of my job is to put photos with web stories, and of course we have copyright issues. You can't just go taking MLB property and put. They're a little litigious.
Yeah.
And so the person who produced the story. Didn't ahead of time, as I always ask them to do, go and get permission because you often can. And so I had a generic Round Rock Express picture, and then I saw the picture of it wasn't the Chupacabras, but it was the San Antonio team, and they had this great hat. I was just like, dude, I totally would have put that on the web if you had gotten me permission before.
Yeah.
This is my life. This is what I do all day. Ask whether I can use pictures.
Oh my gosh, my wife was going through something like that at her work, involving back and forth with legal, and it's like how much productivity is lost in the world just spent on that stuff.
And like you're doing what you do because what we do is we take the audio stories and we write them up into web posts and then we post them up. And anytime I'm in an art wormhole and I'm like looking for Creative Commons art that I'm allowed to use, anytime it's more than 5 minutes, I feel like I'm wasting my day. It's like, it's just no fun. And we do reported stories, people will take pictures, but other than that, it's all Creative Commons stuff.
Well, Len, have a good time watching the ball game.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for watching us here as well.
And we'll see you Monday.
See you Monday. Have a good weekend.